Camera freeze. Hey, welcome to the podcast. This is Mr. Amazing's Inside Out with Mr. Amazing. That's what we're doing here is a podcast, right? So I don't know where you're at today, but I know where we're at. We're in Marble Falls, 103.9 K-Bay, in our podcast studio right here.
Free advertisement.
It's free advertising. And if you don't know everybody, that's Misty back there. But Misty's back there. She's too chicken to be on the camera. And that's Ben Shields. He is our producer. He's good looking, ladies. He is good looking. Anyway, so then you have what's your name? George? This is George.
George, what's his
George,
name?
we've known each other for like 14 years now.
Something like that.
Wow, time goes by fast.
Yeah, it does.
We were just kids. And then George, and then this is Kimberly. I got her name right finally.
Finally.
We've known each other for like 4 years.
Finally got my name right.
Finally got her name right. So we're glad to be here today. Are we gonna kick it up a notch? No, we're not. But
We're just going to hit the brakes, y'all. We're just going to hang out.
Yeah,
just mellow.
Yeah, hit the skids. Anyway, I want to tell you a little bit about Misty since you can't see her and she doesn't want to be on the camera. We met Misty over there in Lockhart. Her nickname was Throat Punch. I know, it's pretty crazy. I was like, what's Throat Punch? Anyway, I learned the lesson really quick, so the next time I went over there to preach, I wore a neck brace. Anyway. And then for 2 weeks after that, they called her Broken Finger. But that's okay. So, you all right, Kim? No. Kim, you having a hard time over there?
Just so viewers know, Misty's my best friend. I love her very much.
Oh, is it Missy?
Misty.
Oh, it's Misty.
Talk.
Yeah.
You're killing me over here.
It's all right. I just know her as Throat Punch. But that's okay. We're glad that she's here today. But anyway, she would be on camera, but she's afraid that, there may be somebody who get offended when they see her if you're still there, right? It's like, I remember her. Ah!
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all just ridiculous. So I don't know if last week or the last podcast I was telling you we were going to, I was going to get to go over there to Mountain View and be on their podcast. Yeah, that hasn't happened yet. Yeah, so they're still debating if I could be on their podcast. I guess there's something about a grown man in a cape that makes people nervous, right?
Fair
like
enough.
It's okay when I see it, but then I'm thinking, well, for somebody that doesn't know, that would be kind of weird, right? It would
Unless
be
you're
kinda weird.
Superman.
Unless you're Superman, but that would still be kind of weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, he had opposition too, so.
No, if I see Superman on the corner, I'm thinking that guy's weird. I am. So anyway, last Saturday we were at Woodman handing out hygiene, right? And YouTube Ministries, we've handed out hygiene at different places. And every time we hand out hygiene, almost everybody says thank you, right? Almost everybody. But it was particularly crazy over there at Woodman Saturday because there was so many people crying. There were so many girls crying, right? Maybe because it was Mother's Day, but when I went back on Mother's Day, because I was preaching that Sunday, some of the ladies were telling me there's so many girls that are inching it, right? Right. So nobody puts money on their books, and they don't really talk to their families. And yeah, they burnt some bridges, right? Bridges have been burnt, but for somebody to go in there and still care about them and give them shampoo, not the little tiny bottles, no, not the stuff that you're stealing from the hotel, no, not
the good
that.
stuff,
like regular stuff, right? Something that you would buy at the store, and then 3 bars of soap and deodorant and toothpaste, and then of course we went the extra mile and gave cupcakes out.
Aww.
Right? I know, chocolate cupcakes.
That means so much, I bet. Oh
there
my
was
gosh.
girls that didn't take 50 steps, and those cupcakes were gone, like
Yeah.
wolfed down. Right? I'm like, what's that on your lips? That's cream filling. Like, you got to be kidding me. You ate one that fast? Didn't even take a bite. And another girl, she said, oh, I'm going to savor it. I'm going to eat it like a chipmunk. Like just a little at a time. And I said, what do you got to your little hand up there? Were you with the crumbs?
Fill your cheeks.
Yeah, right? Because I've done that before. Haven't you? Like a cake or something, you're
Make it last.
make it last where you got the crumbs and stuff. Anyway, there was a lot of people crying. But you know what? It really felt good just to be able to be blessed to be able to do that. And, for the people that donate money to you two, man, thank you. Thank you very much. A lot of times, I may be the face of it and I'm getting some credit for that, but we always try to say it's from Jesus, right?
Yes,
Because
for
that's
sure.
what it was. And sometimes people think that they're forgotten. And just because you made some mistakes and, yeah, you've been in prison and you maybe have made more than one mistake. But that doesn't mean that you're still not a human being, especially girls, right? Because you know what? The girls, one girl said, oh, that night, everybody was in the shower, everybody was at the sinks, and then for a couple of nights, you take a shower, your hair smells nice, it's clean, you start to feel like you're a human being again, and maybe you make some better choices. Right.
Amen.
So that's pretty cool. So one funny story, because I was flying around in my cape, right? And I know you hadn't seen it yet, but you will. So I was flying around in my cape, and what was super cool at Woodman, the wind was blowing. So if I stood just right, my cape would flap in the wind.
Oh my God.
But the girls, if you ever been to Woodman before, there's like a little hallway out there where you can, where you have to go to the H dorms and the J dorms. So there's a little hallway. So I was out there where people were coming and going to get their stuff. And I was just cracking jokes, telling people Happy Mother's Day, right? And the girls I said, yeah, it was just a couple hours ago, the wind caught me and I flew up and got caught in the razor wire. So I was like screaming for a guard. I'm like, hey, I need some help. Anyway, he came, he said, what do you need? I said, throw me a Johnny. So throw me a Johnny. So I'm up there in the razor wire, stuck up there with my cape, having a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? Which is kind of weird because the peanut butter and jelly is already mixed together, which is kind of disgusting.
Was it like all globed right in the center?
It's pink. It's just
not
weird,
spread
right?
out.
Yeah, it's just weird, right? So anyway, but I ate my whole Johnny, and then finally they got me down. Anyway, it was pretty fun.
Is that a real story?
No, that's not a real story.
Oh my God.
Oh, you think that somebody's gonna throw me a Johnny up in a razor wire?
Well, why would you say that? I'm gullible.
I know you're gullible, but I'm trying to cheer everybody
You're
up.
so
Like, what's up?
You're so trustworthy. Now I'm not going to be able to listen to the rest
That
of
was
this podcast.
sarcasm. You got to be able to. It's funny. Anyway, people were laughing. It was good times.
Awesome.
I bet it was.
Right.
Missy and I were talking on our way up here about the whole hygiene, passing out and everything, and just how good it felt to have someone do that for us. Like when you're in there. Like, obviously it sounds like how it is, because you get to see the reactions, but like being on the other side of it, and I know that if Missy was on camera, she could have totally backed me up on it. Like it, for people who are indigent, like I did a lot of indigent time, and it is the most rewarding thing. Those are the days that we look forward to, like hoping that someone's going to do that, because that's the only thing that you have. And you're right. Like we feel disgusting because we're women, women are different. And so like our hygiene is very important. We have like this long hair, like it's all matted and greasy whenever you're trying to wash it with those little bitty bars of soap, and like your skin breaks out, you get patchy, you just don't look like yourself.
Those little green bars of soap?
Yes.
You call those a bar of soap? Because that's not really a bar of soap. What would you? That would be more like a shave of soap.
Yeah, but they call them bar soap, and you get like maybe 5 every, like maybe twice a week. But that little bitty soap doesn't go, and there's like lye in it.
Yeah.
To like disinfect, and you can imagine what that does to your body. And so, and then people are putting toothpaste on their armpits to try to get rid of like BO smell, and it's hot in prison.
Yeah.
Like there's no AC in some places.
Some places.
Even if there are ACs, like sometimes they're broke, and it's hot. I mean, I can't tell you how many times Misty and I have been in a dorm where we had to have big utility fans brought in because of the AC being broke. So I'm just glad you were there to do that for them.
Yeah.
Because I know those are my people, That's where I grew up.
Those are my people.
Those are my people.
Well, let me give a shout out to Kathy and Dennis. If you're watching this. If you're not, no shout out then. And then Chaplain Ward over there at Woodman too. Man, what a great dude.
Really?
Yeah, man, it was fantastic. And something else was great? We had some cupcakes left over, so we put them in the ODR.
For the officers?
For the officers.
Yeah, you got to feed the staff.
Well, you got to feed the staff because, you might want them to, open a door for you one of these days.
Or show appreciation.
Or show appreciation.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, back to Misty. We would never hand out cupcakes if we ever handed out cupcakes at Lockhart, she would just stand there and do this. Okay, here, you can have 2. All right, sorry about that.
Bully you out of cupcakes.
Yeah, I know. You wish she was on camera, don't you? I know you do.
Yeah.
We'll get a
I'm
clip.
going to forever call her Throat Punch Misty for the remainder of her visit
Yeah.
with me. She's on vacation, so now she's Throat Punch Misty.
Throat punch. Yeah, that's good. Well, George, what about you? How's it going?
So I'm a school teacher, and we're at the end of the school year, and it's a fun time. It's a fun time to be teaching the youth of America. They're great kids.
Yeah,
I love them.
That
all.
sounds sarcastic.
No, they really are great kids that I work with. But this time of year, I think we're all ready for summer.
Yeah.
Is just the idea. Yeah.
All right. Well, George and I we were in San Saba Sunday night
Yeah.
for Mother's Day, even though it's a men's prison.
Right.
But,
Still Mother's Day.
how'd that go, George? What do you think about doing that?
Man, I kind of set my clock by the opportunities we have to go to San Saba. That's the original one that we started working with together. And it always feels like no matter what is causing the stress and anxiety in my life, getting to go worship alongside those gentlemen at San Saba or the women at Lockhart or the other places we've gone to, but just the worship just hits different. It's just, I don't know. Obviously, yes, I go to go and encourage the prisoners, but every time I think I leave more encouraged, more healthy, and I don't know. And they're like, "Oh, it's giving back." It's like, no, it's not. It's not that. You don't understand. It's just getting right with God alongside of them, And it's just it's a time of healing. It's just so good, and I look forward to it. And it definitely didn't disappoint this time either. It was just good stuff. Had Moses giving his testimony.
Yeah, Moses, same guy who held the staff up. Same guy.
He was holding the staff up.
He was. He was holding the staff up.
Our Moses was.
Yeah.
But just giving his testimony, it was just I don't know, life affirming. Just
That's
good
beautiful.
to see. Good
That's
to
so
see.
beautiful.
Just people literally the trajectory of their lives just being impacted by God moving and what God's doing, and you can see that he's impacting those around him in the prison too. But, just a beautiful testimony.
Yeah.
Good night.
Yeah, good night. The thing about it is, so if you're in prison, man, you get it, right? We've all made some mistakes. But if you're listening to this podcast and you're not in prison, right? You should go to prison. No.
Not that way.
Not that way. But
Not that way, but in a way.
But in a way. But the thing about it is, I know because people say, "Oh, you do prison ministry, but we never really look at it like that, right? Because I'm never looking at it like prison ministry. And then when we go to church service, it's like we're doing it together, not like we're doing it and you're watching or whatever the case may be. It's just like because even if you've been in prison, even if we haven't been, we've all still screwed it up, right? So then when you're worshiping the Lord, we're worshiping as a team, right?
There's not an us and them
It's not
mentality
an us
at
and
all.
them,
It's just
right?
us.
But then when people say prison ministry, I almost get defensive because it's not really. I mean, I don't know what else you would call it, but it's not like you think it is for us.
I agree.
It just becomes who you are. And you know what? For me, being in a prison system, I have learned the Bible changed for me. Right, going to church, you hear the stories, and you hear the preaching, but then when I got involved in the prison system, the whole Bible changed for me. Every story applies. Because sometimes I'm not saying that every story doesn't apply out in the world, but it's just different. Maybe I'm not explaining it very good, but the prison system has changed the Bible for me in a way positive way. It's just brought it more to life.
Well, and it's unique that several of those books of the Bible were written behind bars.
Yeah.
For different reasons, whatever. But
That's true.
It is what it is. It's people, impacted and imprisoned, and just that message. And you said this last week too. It's like you don't have to be in jail to be in prison. Like you can be a free person, but still absolutely in the confines of depression and addiction and 100 other things that can enslave you and entrap you, and we're all about breaking that down.
Yeah, and we've seen people in prison that they're free.
And that is true.
They're
as
just
well.
free, right? They they don't play the games of it all. They don't they just know that Jesus loves them and cares about them, and they're confident in that. It's just changed who they are, right? And then they're reaching out to other inmates, which is incredible. What do they call those, life coaches?
Yeah,
Life coach
and
or
some They're not on all the units, but there
Yeah.
are some units that do like have like the life coaching and
What do they call it? There's another name for it too.
there is what is it, service leaders or
Nah, that wasn't what I was thinking.
something?
What was
With the
one
green
that-
band.
The green band. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
What did
the
it say
green
on it?
band. Where they can go and walk through
Peer-
the prison. Peer
Peer support. What was it? Peer
educator.
educator. Yeah.
Thanks, Misty.
Good
That's
job.
Misty again,
Dang,
giving
see,
us her
you
2
should be on
cents worth.
camera.
Throat Punch
Yeah.
McGee with the right answer. Appreciate you.
Throat punch. Right. Yeah. Oh, she's telling us right now that she once throat punched a. No, she did. That's funny. What was it again? It was a
Peer
peer
educator.
educator.
Yeah.
Yeah, be careful. Right. Be careful. Anyway, so today's little message, this is bizarre, right? Because we have been talking about this for a little while. George wanted to do this week 1, but I wasn't feeling it, so we didn't do it. So let's start off with this. Everybody has an enemy, right? And maybe not. Maybe everybody doesn't have an enemy. But, there's probably people that you don't like. And, sometimes maybe it doesn't bother me too much anymore. But I know that there was some people that I didn't like that did some stuff to me that, that really affected me financially. And I was having a hard time with them, right? I couldn't get my mind off of it. It was constantly thinking about it. And then I went to go see the movie The Shack, right? Like, yeah, the movie The Shack. Everybody's like, oh, great movie. I hate that movie. Because I wanted these people, bad things to happen to them. I'm telling you, man, I just wanted bad things to happen to them. When there's a thunderstorm, I was thinking, oh, here we go, Jesus, you're going to knock them down. Here we go. But he never did. And I'm at the movie The Shack, and all of a sudden I hear in the movie it says, well, I love them too. And I'm just like, what? And I'm like, oh, no. It was like Jesus stabbed me with not stabbed me. It's like he throat punched me. Anyway, he. Oh my gosh. That's too funny. It was like he convicted me because he told me right there in that movie theater, I love those people too. And I'm just like, no, how could you possibly love those people? Right? You ever have people in your life where you're just like, no, Jesus, you can't possibly love them. Right? Anyway, so I had to learn how to forgive these people. But I see them every once in a while. It kind of brings it back up. I'm like, no, Jesus loves them too. But that doesn't mean I have to hang around with them. Right? But when you're in the prison system now, like for me, I can drive off. Right? Yeah. If I see somebody at the store, I can just like dodge them and, go down another aisle. Right? But when you're in the prison system, you can't really dodge nobody. Mm-mm. And you know what? How many times do I hear where, you have a bunkie and everything's fine with your bunkie, and then all of a sudden they pull chain or they go home, and then you get the next bunkie and you have no idea about their mannerisms? Or you hope they have an aneurysm. No. Nope. That's later on.
Yeah, later.
Right? Anyway, so then they come in and you don't really seem to get along, right? And then there's a clash, and you're just like, it's just one of those things to where, it's just a difficult thing, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you ever been there, Kim?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, don't bring any names out.
I'm not. I would never. But, I'm going to say some of it wasn't me, but some of it was me.
Oh.
Because I'm a OCD cleaner.
Huh.
And they were not as conscientious as I would like them to be, or that I would be for them, or they're really disrespectful in like their noise levels, or like just certain things. And it's not like an immediate dislike or immediate like, oh my gosh, it happens like over time because you're stuck in a 4x4, 4x6
4x4?
cell. I don't
It's
know.
It's got to be bigger than that.
Is it 4x6?
Everybody stands up there.
It's really small.
Okay.
It's extremely small cell. And then they have like these 2 beds and a little table packed in there. And then your toilet too. So you're real close. And so it becomes really claustrophobic in there with all the not so great behaviors.
Yeah.
And you grow resentment.
Yeah, and then it's irritating because
Oh my gosh.
maybe you don't want bad things to happen, but maybe you do. And I'm not saying that we're mean. I'm just saying sometimes we're human beings because people are like, oh, you're not a very good Christian. Well, that's why I need Jesus. I need him every day.
I will say there's been a couple times where I was definitely not above saying I wish she would get out of here. I wish something would happen where she got moved out.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying I was right, you know, and obviously I have to go to the feet of Jesus to like, you know, in my own time and ask him like to forgive me, take that out of my heart. I'm not saying that I'm perfect all the time. I'm not saying that anything like that, you know, was immediate relief from those feelings, but they were there. Those ill feelings were there. They were human. You know, and you go live in a little tiny cell with somebody that you don't get along with.
Yeah.
That would amplify everything.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
it was something that kind of annoyed you a little bit
Yes.
with that close proximity. I'm
And
sure it's
I
just-
mean, you don't get to choose. So you don't get to, you know, like out here, we get to choose who we're going to live with, who we're going to hang out with, like you said. You know, I choose to have Missy hang out with me because we get along so great. But I don't get to choose my bunkie in prison. And so you two are on way different ends of the spectrum. And I'm not talking about, you know, I'm just talking, you know, but it's not going to work out well. You know, two different backgrounds, you know, two different, you know, behavior styles because of who you are and how y'all grew up, what area you're from. It all clashes and it is intense. I mean, it's real intense. It gets aggressive.
Another reason why I wish I was there.
No.
Yeah, I know. I know.
You know, they don't call Throat Punch Misty just because.
Yeah, just
it gets
because
aggressive in those cells.
Yeah, that's where she perfected her gift. yeah. So, what about you, George? You know what, great guy you are, but there's got to be somebody that annoys you, or you just can't stand, or somebody's hurt your feelings, or something, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep. Well, yeah.
Yeah. No names.
Oh, no
Yeah,
names?
No names. No
Yeah.
names.
No, absolutely. And you try to be good and try to see the positive and try to be the positive, and just sometimes it just doesn't work out that way.
Yeah.
And especially if it's a misunderstanding and you're the recipient of, you know, the negative, whatever it might be, you know, job situation or life situation, and you want to be Christ-like. You want to be known as being Christ-like, but the honest truth is there's so many ways that we fall short of the glory of God, and it seems to really come out in those times where it's like you're just like, yeah, God, you love them too.
I know.
And just the frustration if the blessings seem to pour on them, and you're like,
Yeah, isn't that weird, right? It's just like, why is it working out for them? Like, it shouldn't work out for them.
Right.
I don't want it to work out for them, and it's working out for them. And then I'm like, why is that? Because I want God's grace and I want His mercy. There's some people that I don't want that to happen to them.
Well,
Right?
that's
Which
the part.
is
That's
so
the part of our
selfish.
Christianity where we talk a lot about grace, but in those situations we kind of lean towards wishing karma was a thing.
Yeah.
But with God's grace,
Yeah.
kind of hard too when it's a case of you know that they're a believer and you know that they were acting in a way that you're like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
But yeah, grace versus karma.
Grace versus karma.
But we worship a God of grace, and
We do.
I want that grace, and gotta give what you want to as well.
It's easy to give mercy to somebody that you like. Sometimes it's hard to give mercy to people that you don't like.
Right.
Anyway, in the book of Jonah, right?
Right.
At the end of it, God shows mercy to the Ninevites, and Jonah gets mad. And then you're thinking, you know, and then I was looking into this, right? Because I've heard quite a few sermons on this right now, right? It's funny how many sermons, and no two are the same, right? And then I'm like, who wrote the book of Jonah? Because did Jonah write that book? And then so some people think that Jonah did write it, and other people think that it's an anonymous, right? So, but if Jonah wrote the book, why would he end it like he did? Because he doesn't look so good at this book. I mean, he looks like a complete fool here, right? And then the thing about it is, the more I read it, the more I realize I look like a complete fool too. But if I'm finishing the book, I'm going to make sure I look good at the end.
And
I'm not just
everything,
going to
happily
leave
ever after. You want
happily
a
ever
little
after.
tag
Oh,
at the
yeah. He came back. He regrouped. He asked for forgiveness. He was buddies with the Ninevites. He led Bible studies in town. He was doing the preaching. He was the
Right.
man.
There you go.
Right? Amen.
I mean,
You know, but not just leave you hanging like that. Because that is a really weird book. Just to like, bam, it's just like, well, what happened? Well, you don't know. Right?
right.
Anyway, I'm going to put my glasses on in a minute because that's what makes me look smart.
I was about to say, you're going to make George and I look not so smart because
I
your
know.
glasses are cooler on you.
Maybe we should change the name of this podcast to 3 Glasses. 3 pairs of glasses. Or, yeah, at least
I think
old.
you could do
nerds.
better than that.
We could. I'm
The
old,
nerds.
so I have an excuse. So the thing about Jonah is like, you know, he didn't want to go to the Ninevites, right? He did not want to preach the gospel to the Ninevites. He did not want to go. He didn't like those people. He hated those people, right? Not like there's people that make me mad and this and that, but he hated them. Like he did not like them because the Ninevites, what I hear is obviously I wasn't there, but, you know, I hear that they were ruthless people. Not ruthless, not like, you know, they stole the copper out of your house, even though that is ruthless. And if you ever did that to me, I hope you know, whatever. I know, because that has happened
Mercy and
before.
grace.
That sounds
I
very
know,
personal.
Mercy and grace, right? I hope you spend every second behind bars. No. So, sidetrack. Where was I? Yeah.
Nineveh.
Yeah, Nineveh. So Jonah, he hated the Ninevites so bad that he did not want to go and preach the gospel because he knew that God was going to do something miraculous, right? And then he, you know, he knew it, but he's like, I would rather die than have those people rescued, right? And I'm thinking, man, what a jerk. But then there I think, man, you know what? And I may not hate people, but there's people that I'm not really paying attention to, like if they come to know the Lord or not, because most of my focus is on me. Most of the focus is on my mercy. Most of the focus is on my grace. Most of the focus is on my blessings. Most of the focus is on my family. Most of the focus is on my job or my this or my that or my ministry or blah, 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 right? A lot of my focus, you know, it is on helping people because obviously we're here doing this, right?
Yeah.
We want to reach as many people as we can. But a lot of times my focus should be on everybody, not just a couple people. And then you know what, I catch myself because in the book of Jonah, right, God brings him a plant, right, which I'm going to read that in a second. And then God takes the plant away from him. And Jonah's super happy about the plant. And then when God takes the plant away from him, he's like, I'd rather die. My plant is dead, right? I'm like, man, Jonah, what a moron, right? But then I think, and then this hit me. So Kim puts this plant right here. And
It's
it
a
has
nice plant.
It's a nice plant. It's poison ivy. It's
What's the scientific word for it?
I have no idea. So it's
Poisonous ivius.
poisonous ivius. Yeah. So it's
Surely
poison
it's not.
ivy. But what I was thinking about this plant is how much it's not dead, but it was never alive. But I'm like this plant a lot in my life, in my Christian life. I'm just fake.
Oh my gosh.
I don't want to be fake. Right? I want to show the love of Christ to everybody, but I got to be able to show the love of Christ to my enemies too. I got to be able to show the love of Christ to the guard who doesn't want to call my classes out. I need to show grace to, the warden that won't let us bring some stuff in, or I need to show grace to whoever, right? I need to show grace to my old lady. I need to show grace to the people that don't get the job done. I need to show grace to the people that cut me off in the traffic. I need to show people grace at the store, everywhere. But I catch myself being this plant, right? Just a fake. And I don't want to be this.
It's good.
That is. So we're going to take this plant off set because I don't want to look at it anymore.
It is a good aesthetic. Can we keep it?
It is.
Looks nice. Does it smell nice?
Smells like
It smells like potpourri.
oh, nice.
Anyway, so you know what? Maybe I should start wanting good things to happen to people that I can't stand. Right?
It's hard.
Right.
It is very hard. But you know what? That's Christ-like. Right? Because what did Jesus say at the end? He said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they're doing. Right? And so many times, I don't know what I'm doing, but I need to be more like Christ. And then when people irritate me, when people that I'm mad at, or not mad at, but the people that, frustrate me and stuff, I need to love them like Christ, and I catch myself not. And I need to be more like that. I catch myself to be more like Jonah. Anyway, I'm doing all the talking. I know. It's just the way it is here. I'm trying to get him to say something. What do you do? Right?
We're intimidated by Throat Punch Misty.
Yeah, well, she's way over there. I'll stop her before she gets over here. Right? Well, maybe I won't. Maybe I won't. I'll throw some water on her. Anyway, so you know what? I don't know where you're at today. You know what? It happens to everybody, right? Maybe you're in your 50 unit, a pod with the day room, right? And there's 50 people in your day room.
Yeah.
And there's got to be somebody annoying you because it's just the way it is, right? And, and then all of a sudden they get blessings, right? Or they've been getting cases, right? They get a case for this and a case for that and a case for this. And then all of a sudden they get a parole answer. They get to go home. And you're like, what? That's not fair. I hadn't even got a case. I should get, how many times have I heard this? I should get cases and then I could get to go home. Like, what?
Oh my gosh.
No, don't do that. But I've heard that before, right?
I think I've actually said that before back in my maybe like my halfway mark. I think I've definitely said that a couple times. Have you said that, Missy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've said it because it does seem like that. And so we were Jonahs at one point in our life.
We all are, right?
We all are.
And then, something else I was thinking while I was doing some of this, in the first chapter of Jonah where he doesn't want to go do what God called him to do, that's just like all of us. Like if God calls us to go to, because Jonah had to go to Iran, right? So that's where Nineveh is, Iran. So am I willing to go to Iran? No, I don't think so. If God called me to Iran, I'm telling you what, I don't know how I'd handle that. I'd probably have to get on a plane going to Idaho and it detours to Iran. And I didn't,
Right.
But am I willing to go to where my enemies are? Am I willing to go to where the people I don't like are to share the gospel? Right? Because here I am again, living in the United States. I got all the comforts of everything. And am I willing to do that? Or am I just a fake plant? Right? I got to start thinking about some of this. And I think the book of Jonah is more about mercy and grace and our hearts than it is about Jonah and, because we're all that way. You know what I mean? I really do think that. So, so maybe God, I know I shouldn't say this, but maybe it's one of those places to where you get me to where I need to start looking at people like you see them. And instead of looking at like, oh, they're so aggravating or they're so annoying or they're so this, maybe you got me there to share the gospel, to show the light, even though they're annoying, to be able to handle it better or to want something good for them or positive for them. And I think that would be the love of Christ. Yes?
That is
And
it.
what's crazy is when you start to analyze yourself, you realize just how much you need Jesus, right? Because I've been to places before where people, and a lot of times, and I'm not really on pastors' cases, but a lot of times people in church, they're afraid to, they're kind of like the plant. They look good on the inside or they look good on the outside, but they never share the heartache. They never share the struggles. They put a facade up like everything's perfect. And then when you have struggles, it's hard to go there because you're thinking everybody's perfect when we got all these struggles. Sometimes I think it's best to realize that we all got struggles, and maybe that's why we fit in the prison system, because when you're in the prison system, everybody knows they
Kind of open about the wounds and open about how messy life actually is, instead of the whole like the Instagram life where we just post and all the greatest moments,
Yes.
the best picture, like selfies. Selfies. I'll take 100 selfies just to be like, you know what? I'm not going to look good in any of these, so we're just going to post a different picture. I'll do a painting instead of a picture.
Oh, that's funny.
I can control that, but no, absolutely. We're afraid to be that honest, I think, is what tends to happen. Which, as a church, we're supposed to be more of a hospital for the wounded, but we have a lot of wounded who are afraid to explain what's hurting them,
Mm-hmm.
what's the actual issue that we need to deal with. But yeah, I agree with that. When we go to the prison, it just seems like everything becomes a little bit more open and honest. Or at least I feel like and that's the thing, back to it's not a us and them, it's a us, just being honest about, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I need prayer for. This is the circumstance I'm dealing with. And then we just kind of open up and worship and just kind of get at it and, feel the healing.
Yeah. You know what, when we have an altar call and people come up and they say, will you pray for this? I'm like, yeah, but can you pray for me too?
Right. You pray for this.
They're like, what? Yeah, man, you need to pray for me too, because I got some serious issues, right? Yeah. And the thing about it too, and I may have already lost my concentration on this. I hadn't lost my concentration, but I may have just lost it. But you know what? Sometimes, even though we may not want to be in that situation, but maybe we need to look at it like God's got us in that situation because he wants to save other people there that we don't care about, that are unnoticed to us, right? So maybe you're waiting for an answer, right? And I know that's probably the most difficult time in the prison system is when you're waiting for an answer, right? It's the 2 weeks or the 3 weeks, and then you get the answer and it's like you have a set off. And you know what, man, I'll tell you, if I had a set off, I'd be, I'm telling you, it'd be hard for me just like, oh, I got a set off, yay. No, I'd be like, ah. But the thing about it is, I want to just try to encourage you today that maybe God's got you there, right? Because he rescued you, so there's no doubt about that. But maybe God's got some other plans that he's got you there to help save other people and other generations and other kids and other grandkids and other things that you just don't know about, right? No different than Jonah. Jonah didn't want to do it, but yet a whole city gets saved because Jonah finally says okay, even though he doesn't want to do it, right? So maybe that may help you out a little bit today. And maybe it doesn't. Maybe you're just looking at the podcast and you're thinking, man, Mr. Amazing, why don't you just shut up? Right?
I don't think so. This is good stuff.
Hey, I need some water.
You could move your microphone.
Hey, I need some water. That was good. You want me to keep on talking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell us about Jonah.
All right. I'm going to put my smart glasses on.
Oh my gosh. Who are you?
Who am I? I'm
Mr. Smart.
I know. I'm changing my name.
Mr. Smarty Pants.
One thing I am not. That's why I'm married to the wife I'm married to, is because she's the smart one.
Really?
Yeah, she's the one.
Super intellectual.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's opposites attract.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm super good looking. No. She's no.
Should we cut that part out?
No, we don't cut that part out. I have a mustache. She does not. Right? Well, nowadays you just never know. Right? Oh, can I have a sidebar? This is probably not the time to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. So while I'm handing out hygiene, right? So the girls are walking by, and I'm like, "Happy Mother's Day, Happy Mother's Day," and a girl says, "Well, Happy Mother's Day to you." And she says, "Oh, sorry," because I was a guy. So I said, "It's okay. I've had a transition," right? And she says, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I've had a transition." She starts laughing, and the other girl says, "Well, they did a really good job." I'm like, that's the nicest compliment I've had in a long time. That's how I got to have a compliment. My transitions were really good. Are you okay, Kim? I know. It only fits there, too, right? All right.
I just wish
Just for the record, Tom has not had a transition.
I haven't had a transition.
Not.
No, I haven't.
He's just joking.
Hey, Ben. Ben one time said I look familiar. I look like Sam Elliott. Anyway, why do I have a Sam Elliott in my Bible? Because people say, you look like this guy. I said, you mean this guy?
So, like, which Sam Elliott? Like, Virgil?
Virgil,
like Tombstone Virgil. That's the best Sam Elliott.
That's because I trimmed my mustache, but it used to be better. Okay, so let me read some of this. You guys ready? Right, dude? This podcast is going to last an hour and a half. We may have to turn this into a two-parter. Okay, so in Jonah chapter 4, super easy reading, right? So I'm reading from the King James. Sorry, that's not. I'm cracking myself up over here. Okay. I'm not reading from the King James. Super easy reading. Wow. What's in the water? I don't know. I don't know what's in the water, but I'm liking it.
Wow, he's on a roll
Yeah,
tonight.
I'm on a roll. I know it. Did I plan all this? No.
No.
Okay. So it says, but Jonah was greatly displeased and became furious. I didn't, right? Is that really where we're going to start? Yes. He prayed to the Lord, please, Lord, isn't this what I said while I was still in my own country? That's why I fled to Tarshish in the first place. I knew that you were a merciful and compassionate God, slow to become angry, rich in faithful love, the one who relents from sending the disaster. Look, that's the Jesus I know. For you out there that are still struggling with it, this is the Jesus that we worship. This is the Jesus that we love. This is the Jesus that's made a difference in our life. The one to where we know. And Jonah knew it, right? Who is it? The one who is compassionate, merciful, slow to anger, rich in faithful love, the one who relents in sending disaster. That's the God that we love, right?
Right.
That's the one that we know.
It's funny because he's like quoting Psalms, but he's quoting it bitterly. He's like, I knew you were so merciful. I knew that your love endures forever. But he's not saying it like your love endures. It's like your love endures forever. Turn it off.
Yeah.
I didn't want that. I did not want that answer. And that he's just so frustrated. I love. So we were talking about, how he's supposed to go to Nineveh, but he goes to Tarshish, where it's the equivalent, sports analogy here. It's like a Dallas Cowboy fan being told to go to Philadelphia and take the message. It's like that disdain. You're like, I don't even want to see the green or whatever. I'm not on either side of that, just so you know. But the whole idea, and it's like he's just fuming because he didn't want to go. He wanted to go and preach the disaster.
Yeah.
And he wanted the people to turn their hearts to be bitter, not to turn their hearts in a good way, just to be stone and to be like, no, we're not going to change our ways. We're going to be exactly who we've always been. And then he was wanting God's wrath just to knock them over.
Just to knock them over.
But he's like, they changed their heart. They listened to his message. They loved the sermon. It's like every preacher's dream situation. The entire nation changes their mind, and God is like, you know what? I'm going to show mercy. I'm going to show because of what you said. He's like, I knew you were going to do it. He's just fuming.
But at least he knew it, right? He knew it. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good, George. So now, Lord, please take my life from me. Right? He hated these people so bad that God showed mercy and love and compassion for the Ninevites that he was so mad. He's like, since you've done that, just take my life from me. I can't stand here anymore. It is better for me to die than to live, right? I'd rather die than to live knowing that those people got rescued. Man, that's some serious selfishness. But then again, you know what? We may not say it in those words, but sometimes our actions are the same thing. Right?
Right.
Maybe not yours, but, mine. Okay, Jonah left the city and sat down east of it. He made himself a shelter there, and he said, oh. Let me go back to what actually Jonah said. What did Jonah say, his message?
Like the sermon notes?
Jonah set out on the first day of his walk to the city to proclaim, in 40 days, Nineveh will be demolished. That was his sermon. In 40 days, Nineveh will be demolished. I could just see it right now. You're going to be demolished in 40 days. That's all his sermon was, right? He's just like, ha, 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 ha. There was no points. There was no bullet points. There was no from the Hebrew. There was no from the Greek. There was no nothing. It was just in 40 days, you're doomed. What a powerful message, right?
Mic drop.
Mic drop. And they repent, right? And they repent. That's the greatest sermon ever, right? Like 8 words. Apparently. Huh. That would be funny. You just go to a church and say, in 40 days, you're going to, gotta go.
Oh my gosh.
Jonah, so he goes to the city, sits down to the east of it, made himself a shelter there, and he sat in its shade to see what was going to happen to the city. So I guess he still was hoping that maybe they were going to regroup.
Maybe it's taking a while.
Change their mind, right? You got a couple days. Maybe they're going to change their mind. Maybe God's going to change
They go
his
back,
mind.
and then God be like, "Oh, you were right." And I think that's what he was wanting, is a God to turn to Jonah and say, "You know what? You were right," and smite the city.
Yeah,
Smote.
That's funny that you say that because
Smite?
smite. Yeah, whatever.
Smithen.
Smitey.
Not smitten. That's
Smoten?
different.
Yeah, we're gonna have to cut that part out.
Oh, they're gonna cut that
Oh,
out.
no,
I'm not
I
cutting
think
that
we're
out.
keeping that.
We're keeping that.
We got the English
Right?
guy not knowing his words right.
That is funny. Anyway, I don't even know. Yeah, so he was probably hoping for something bad. But then he's like, I told you, God, like sometimes that's what we do. We pretend like we're God. Like, hey, God, I know better than you.
Yeah.
I'm just so glad, again, that God's slow to anger because when we try to be God, that's what an insult, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then the Lord God appointed a plant, and it grew up to provide shade over Jonah's head to ease his discomfort. Well, that was pretty nice of him, even though Jonah had a bad attitude. Jonah was greatly pleased with the plant. When dawn came the next day, God appointed a worm that attacked the plant, and it withered. As the sun was rising, God appointed a scorching east wind. The sun beat down so much on Jonah's head that he got a sunburn. Oh, no, it doesn't say that. Jonah got Jonah's head that he almost fainted, and he wanted to die. I mean, this guy's crazy, man. This guy keeps on wanting to die. He says, "It is better for me to die than to live." God asked Jonah, "Is it right for you to be angry about the plant?" "Yes," he replied. "It is right. I am angry enough to die." So the Lord said, "You care about the plant which you did not labor over or did not grow. It appeared in a night and perished in a night. Should I not care about the great city of Nineveh, which has more than 120,000 people who cannot distinguish between their right and their left, as well as many animals?" And it just ends right there, right?
Wow.
And you know what? Just like in my story, right? Tom, should you care about not so much about the plant, but you care about all these other things? And it's okay, I guess, to care about those things, but you put so much priority in it. Shouldn't I care about these other things? Right? I catch myself watching the stock market all the time instead of listening to a podcast or something. I catch myself focused on things that don't really matter instead of reaching people with the gospel. Right? I spend so much time caring about the stuff than I care about God. I think what it is I care more about the creation than I care about the creator. Right. And if the creator cares about the creation, that's how I should look at it. But I care about the stuff, just like Jonah and the plant. So I don't want to be like that. But it's going to take some more effort. It's going to take Jesus molding me. And he's molding me. And he's molding all of us to be more like him. But I think that's what this lesson's about today. Right? It's about showing mercy and grace to our enemies and being willing to be in that position. You know, Jonah, he's walking around in a place where he could easily be killed. But he still went there. He still preached it. He still did that. Right?
He did.
Yeah.
He was reluctantly obedient.
He was reluctantly. But, I've been there before too. Right? Yeah. Kim, what do you think?
I think that's good stuff. It's really good stuff. I think that's something that everyone can relate to. Even old Misty back there.
Misty, old throat punch?
Yeah, she gave it back. She's trying to give up her throat punching days.
Yeah.
No, I was really kind of emotional during some of it, but I wasn't going to cry because, But, don't want to cry on the podcast. Because I have like this thing where I like to look at it from like my perspective, and like then there are things that I've done in my life where other people, I try to like think of it how they feel, and how just a lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff going on in my heart right now, but there's times that like it's hard for me to be full of God's mercy and grace, and sometimes I care about the stuff, the creation rather than the creator. And then it's crazy that you say this lesson, because there's been many times where I've had to stop myself like dead in my tracks and be like, Kim, is that how you would want X, Y, and Z? to feel about you. You beg for, God's mercy, grace, and forgiveness and understanding and love and all these things. And you pray for these other people to see you in that way after you're the one who hurt them, but you're crying out to God, wanting it for yourself, but you don't want to give it. And I think that we as human beings, that us just being in our fleshly ways, we're born that way, we're just taught that way. Society has molded us that way, and it takes a lot of work. And I'm not great at it, I fall short every day, and it's just, but I do, think that God's got me in a place where maybe it doesn't happen immediately, but he makes me really self-aware of like, hey, you need to stop and take a break and kind of take a look at things the way I need you to look at them.
But aren't you glad that we have a God who's not condemning us?
Oh, yeah.
But he's loving us to be more like him. And then, you know what? When we're more like him, that's when I'm at peace.
Yeah.
When I'm more like him, that's when stuff just rolls off my back.
It's when you get this good humor on the podcast.
Well, whatever.
You being more like Jesus right now?
Yeah, no. Right now I'm feeling more like Jonah. Right?
No, that's really good stuff. I guess that's why I don't really have a lot to say, because I'm really like taking it in. That was I needed to hear that,
Yeah. Different perspective.
It's a different perspective. It's good. You're always bringing that kind of fresh perspective. That's why I like listening to you.
Sometimes George gave me a hard time about that the other day. He's like, yeah, well, I'm like, what? Okay.
No, I don't understand that language.
Like, right?
3 sound effects
Excuse
to
me, what
explain a whole
language?
conversation.
What language were you
The translation
speaking?
was, I love it when you unravel the scripture and the Holy Spirit takes over and gives you
in a different
fresh perspective.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Like
no doubt about it. George, you got some music for us today?
I do.
You know what? Talked to the guy at the Jim at the gym, and he said, that guy's got a great voice.
Aww.
That was a great
Tell
song.
Jim thanks.
I will tell him thanks. He did. He said, that guy's got a great voice.
All right.
But today I'm going to make sure that my mic is not humming behind you.
So again, we're going to do the magic trick where I'm going to be sitting here, and then I'm magically going to have a guitar in front of me here in about now. All right. So we're back. Here's a song that I learned because I was told to learn this song, literally.
Who told you that?
We've talked about this, not on the podcast.
No.
But it was the girl that came with us one time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she had a great story, too.
And her testimony was amazing, but she was like, you've got to listen to this song and you've got to do it next time you go to prison. And I think I've done it every time I've gone to prison ever since then. Even if I'm just going to do one song, I've done this one, I think.
It makes sense at the prison.
It does. It makes, so the one line that very much stands out in this song is, talking about the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God, chasing me down, fighting till I'm found, and leaving the 99. And we kind of get thinking about this line of that one sheep that runs away, and sometimes it's running in fear and shame for what we've done. Sometimes maybe from the prison perspective, it's that we've been kind of, in the midst of the consequences of what we've done. But for whatever reason, we feel isolated and forgotten. And the stress of the song talks about how God is chasing us down, is not okay with, teacher perspective, 99%. If you get a 99 on a test, that's pretty darn good. Most parents aren't going to say, well, what happened to the 1 point?
Yeah. But
God's like, hey, every point mattered, But for today in our discussion, the one line that really stands out is the first line of the second verse. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. Again, it's sometimes we got this broken understanding of God, and we feel like he's saying, well, once you get yourself totally cleaned up, then come to me, and then we'll work from there. But that he meets us in our most tragic and our most broken, and that's where he finds us when he chases us down when he finds us. So we're going to sing this song. Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. No prison wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
Wow.
Amen.
I just have to say, whenever you would come in to the prison,
Right.
that was always like my favorite part, because you don't get that where I was, like, I did the sound, and so on other ministries that came in, like, they always was like, hey, do you have any Perry's music? And I always played Reckless Love, right?
Right.
But it doesn't say that. The
Oh,
prison
right,
walls.
right, yeah,
And
the
on the
little-
CD,
the
And so you would
word.
come in and you
Yeah.
would be singing it, and then I would hear you. You just, like, said it one time, and I was like, whoa, that's cool. But then you started doing it every time you came, and I was like, okay, that's this thing.
Yeah.
He's spreading hope. And then just to have the impact it had on my heart, because we don't have a lot of people coming in there declaring that God's going to break down prison walls for us. Even though it says it in the Bible, he says, I will set the captives free, set the solitary and new families. You know, I was really living on that scripture for like the last 2-3 years, because that's all I had to go by. Like, I know you're going to set me free, and I know you're going to give me a family, because I don't have one. And, you know, he obviously did. But it just, that him coming in, when y'all were coming in, at the time that y'all came in, it just always just broke my heart in a good way, you know? And then you see so many women, you know, I was always up at the front because I always had to do ministry stuff, right? So, like, I was always at the front. I got to see how your declaration of God breaking down their prison walls, like, impacted them. I get to see it on their faces. I get to see it in their hearts. I get to go back into the dorms and hear them talking about the guy that came with the beard, and he's saying that, and I loved it whenever he did that. Like, you have no idea the impact that, or maybe you do, and I just think you don't, but like, you have no idea like what you did for us women in Coleman unit.
Well, I just love that I can be used. You know, I mean, really.
Kind of makes me want to cry. I'm so
Not
emotional.
again. We're gonna have to get some tissue here for you. Maybe we should change the podcast to
Cry baby Kim.
no, the bearded worship guy.
No.
We changed the mustache out for a beard.
y'all like how
Beard on
he's
this wall.
We could.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
These
gosh.
are jokes. These
Yeah.
are jokes.
No, that would be good, because there is a cool beard sign too. I saw it.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Hey, you got some encouraging words you want to say before we roll?
Who? I just did.
Okay, George.
I encouraged him.
Absolutely.
didn't.
So, so I like to sing the "There's no wall you won't kick down." It's because if we're serving time, if you're in prison, just know that God's not being held out. He's there, and He's coming in, and He wants to embrace you and love you. He wants to. He's not saying get yourself all fixed up first. He's like, I'm there right in the midst of the wounds and the mess, and I want to not sympathize with you, but it's like empathy, where you go into the issue, and that's what He's done. He's taken on sin and death and all that because He can handle it, and now He wants to personally handle it with you. And that's just an encouraging word, even if you're in a messy, sad, broken time.
So true. Misty, you want to scream something out?
She says,
A little
hey.
louder. Hang on. Shout out Coleman unit.
Yeah, that's funny. Anyway, so we're gonna roll tonight, right? So thanks for encouraging us too, right? We're very encouraged. But you know, wherever you're at today, you know, if things are going great, way to go, right? If things aren't going so great, you know what? Try to look at the positive. Try to look at the positive. You're still breathing. You're still alive. You can still ask for God's mercy and grace and His forgiveness, right? Don't give up, right? Do not give up. Go to bed early tonight. Wake up tomorrow with a different attitude. Know that you're deeply loved. You're completely forgiven. You're one of a kind. You're incredible, right? Do not forget that you're incredible. Yes? Anyway, until next week, adios.
Adios.